Welcome to the Mountain View Post Radio Hour. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kirsten Swan.
I'm Kate Davis.
And thank you so much for joining us. This is the radio show all about Mountain View, the neighborhood, and people who live there, and things that happen in the neighborhood, and local news and stories, and all of that fun stuff. So this morning, Kate, in the studio, we have a very special guest, and she's joining us now in the first half of the show, so we're going to dive right into our interview segment for the day. But first, a little background. For those of you who were with us last week, you were able to listen in on a community meeting that happened at the Mountain View Boys and Girls Club involving a sergeant from the Anchorage Police Department and some neighbors and parents and families from the neighborhood who had some questions about some incidences that we've been having lately involving people getting hit with BB pellets. And it's kind of an ongoing investigation, and you can listen to that whole interview on our website, mountainviewpost.com. But one of the things that came out of that was there were some questions at the end that the sergeant was able to answer. And one of the questions was, what can people do to keep themselves safe in the neighborhood? Because, you know, there are a lot of us that live here, and of course people want to feel safe in the place that they live. And one of the things that the sergeant said was just situational awareness. Be very cognizant of things that are going around you and keep your eyes open and pay attention to your surroundings, because the more you are able to notice, the safer you are. Right, Kate?
Yeah.
Right. So that kind of brings us to our guest today, because one of the things that people can do in the neighborhood is become involved in a neighborhood watch program. And I know we have a few of them in Mountain View. So without much more ado, our guest today is Kathy Goins, who lives in Mountain View and runs a neighborhood watch program on her street, on North Bund Street. Kathy, thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So I know I first spoke with you years ago about this program, and you've been involved with the Neighborhood Watch program for a while now. For background, though, for people who don't really know about the program or what might it entail, can you tell us a little bit about how you first got involved in the program? And yeah.
Yes. Well, in about 2010, Scott Kohlhaus was campaigning for House District 20, which is my district. Mm-hmm. And we talked of many issues when he visited with me, one being crime and neighborhood watch. He helped me get started with the watch by going door to door for me, and then we were on our way. He put me in touch with Natasha Welch of APD, and we set up a meeting with her of people in the area which I chose. That area doesn't have to be large. It can be a very small area, but a certain percentage of the people have to go to the meeting, which she puts on, and it's all about safety. Other than convincing people that it's a good idea to have neighborhood watch and getting them to a meeting, it's easy to have a neighborhood watch group.
So the participation, I remember you telling me about this, was kind of the first thing that people have to do is just go out and maybe talk to your neighbors and find people who would be willing to do this with you.
Yes.
But it doesn't need to be necessarily a specific number. It's more based on the percentage of the area. So for example, your neighborhood watch, is it the whole street, or is it a particular block?
It's part of one street and part of another street.
Okay,
it's just one area which I chose. Scott helped me choose it.
Okay.
And then we got 50% of the people to go to a meeting with the police department.
So there is that flexibility. It doesn't have to be the whole street or one. But
some of it.
Right. So you pick the area that you want to cover, and then you go and talk to your neighbors, and you have to get a certain percentage to go to the meeting. And what was that meeting like? That first meeting?
Oh, it was mostly about safety. One of the things that I remember is putting larger screws in your plate in the door.
Okay.
Where the door knob goes into.
So to keep it extra secure.
Yeah, so somebody can't just come and break it open.
Mm-hmm. So those are things that the police department will cover with neighbors who are interested in forming a neighborhood watch when you organize together and then go for that.
Yes, and another thing is, don't put a ladder out in front of your house so that people can climb in your windows.
You know, that seems like it would be some good common sense advice, but
just some people do it.
Right. You probably
not even thinking.
Exactly, not even thinking.
Yeah, don't put those things out there that that the thieves or crooks can use to break in your house or hurt you or whatever.
Right, and so that seems like that would be good, really practical information that neighbors could have access to about kind of how to keep their homes safe, how to keep their streets safe. So after you go through those preliminary steps and you pick the area in which you want to do the watch, and you go and talk to your neighbors, and you get a certain percentage of them to show up to this meeting and listen to the presentation from the police department, what happens next? Is this, I know there's, you might have seen the article in the Daily News recently about the patrols, the neighborhood patrols that are popping up, but that's a separate program, and people might not know kind of the difference between like what a patrol is and what the neighborhood watch entails. So once the neighborhood watch program is up and running, what does that look like on your street?
Well, we have a core group of people who are the more stable people. We have some apartment buildings, so we have people in and out, but the core group is still there. And we just watch out for each other, and if we happen to see each other on the street, we stop and talk about neighborhood watch things and whatever we feel like talking about.
So that keeping that communication open between neighbors and being able to talk to people about things you see on the street. Now, I know in the past you've had some events too. I know you've extended an invitation before to a dinner that was happening among Neighborhood Watch participants, and I think maybe a barbecue in the summer. Tell me a little bit about some of the things that your watch group has done in the past.
Well, our group has gotten together about once a year since 2011, and we have either a picnic or a potluck, and we invite others from Mountain View and other places too to our function. And we had our 6th neighborhood get-together last year. It's a good way to get communities together, and that's what makes America great, is our communities.
Right. It's wonderful when you're able to really bring everyone in the neighborhood together like that and really get to know your neighbors. And
yes.
So you've had those gatherings since 2011 now, and the Neighborhood Watch group started in, was that 20?
Somewhere around 2011.
Okay, so you've been doing it for 7 years now. That's a big chunk of time, and a kind of a commitment to
Almost half of how old I am.
Really?
Yep, half us. So you've been established in the neighborhood for a while now. What would you say is the big reward for you and the value of being involved in this program?
Well, for me, I've gotten to meet other people people with similar interests. I helped on 2 greenhouse buildings. It was all volunteer work, and that was a lot of fun. We built one greenhouse in Mountain View. We built another greenhouse in Fairview.
Wow. That's not something people might necessarily think of when they think of being involved in a neighborhood watch program.
No, and they were adjacent to schools, so it was for school kids. So that's one of the benefits. And I participate in the Mountain View Market, where I play music sometimes.
And that's how I met you.
Yes.
Right. Well, yeah, it comes back to meeting your neighbors, and
Right.
You end up seeing people everywhere, it seems like, once you meet them that first time.
Right. I'd also like to mention the Mountain View Cleanup, which is coming up soon. The volunteer day is Saturday, April 28th, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. behind the Mountain View Boys and Girls Club. And the dump lot for picking up will be open Tuesday through Saturday, May 1st through 5th, and probably will be in the New Hope parking lot behind the Boys and Girls Club. No mattresses or couches will be picked up this year. You can find more information at Facebook, Mountain View Cleanup, or Mountain View Council page.
I am so glad you came prepared with that information, because I have been trying to hunt down specific dates for when people could go to the dump lot, and I had heard about the Volunteer Appreciation Day on the 28th, but that's very good to know. So that's May 1st through 5th.
Yes.
That the dump lot will be open, and the location still being confirmed. but
Right.
They can watch that Facebook page for more information and just know that it's coming up and mark your
Right.
calendars and get ready to do that big spring
Uh-huh.
purge. So I know that yours is not the only Neighborhood Watch program in Mountain View, and
Right.
that there's has been another one that's popped up. So can you tell us a little bit about how that happens, and then also what you would tell neighbors who were maybe interested in getting involved themselves?
Okay, well, I met a young lady, and she was interested in Neighborhood Watch and had been for a long time, but didn't really know how to get it started. So we talked, and she has, I don't know, maybe 6 or so people in her group, and she's on a dead end street. So she's at the end, not the dead end part of the street, but
They're
the
kind
first
of the entrance where the
yes,
people
the
can go
entrance.
in.
And so she keeps track of what's going on, and hers is a really close-knit group of neighbors.
And so I imagine you can have communication between the separate Neighborhood Watch groups, and then of course within the watch group itself. And
Yes, and when we have our picnics or potlucks, they're invited too.
right, because the neighborhood's really not that big. You know,
No,
you can
it's-
walk
no,
from
it's
one end
not.
to another pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So do you happen to have to know where people could go to learn more information about starting a Neighborhood Watch group in there? I know you have a lot of notes right here, and if it's not in there, that's okay. I will look it up, and we'll be able to give it to people after the break.
Okay,
So-
it's through APD, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if Natasha Welch is still in that capacity, but it would be through APD, I believe, municipality.
We will have that information for our guests after the break, because I know it was Officer Welch, but we'll have to check and see if she's still there. But right, it's of course if you go to muni.org and then you go to the Anchorage Police Department page on muni.org, it should be pretty easy to find. Of course, we'll have that for people coming up. Kate, did you have any questions for Kathy? I know that you were saying before the show started that you yourself used to live on. No, you,
I didn't, but my best friend lives on there now.
On Bunn Street.
Lives on Bunn Street now. And my parents, with my 2 sisters, lived on Bunn Street before me and my brother were born.
See, what a small world. Everybody has these connections, and so you see how people have kind of a vested interest in wanting to keep their street safe.
Are we
And-
still?
So I think it's time right now for a quick break. Stay tuned. When we come back, we have lots more news and plenty more to talk about. You're listening to Mountain View Post Radio Hour. Welcome back to the Mountain View Post Radio Hour. Thank you for tuning in this morning. My name is Kirsten Swan, and we are here in the studio this morning with Kathy Goins, who lives in the neighborhood and organized the Neighborhood Watch program on her street, and has been in the studio this morning with us talking about the Neighborhood Watch program. So, Kathy, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I know there were, in the last segment, we did not have immediate contact information for the Neighborhood Crime Watch program with APD, because that's how it's organized, right? So if people want to become involved, they they get in touch with their neighbors, and then they go through APD to set up the official Crime Watch program. But the contact information we have now is, we have a phone number and also an email address. So if you're interested in starting a Neighborhood Crime Watch program on your street or your corner or your half of your street and half of a neighboring street, like we talked about earlier, you can really pick the area you want to cover. But that phone number is 907-786-8585. So again, get your pen out, 907-786-8585. And that's the number you can contact to learn more from APD about the Neighborhood Crime Watch program or how to be involved. You can also send an email to ncw@muni.org. That's NCW, as in Neighborhood Crime Watch, at muni, short for municipality.org. So that's how you can contact APD if you'd like to learn more. And I know, Kathy, during the break, we were talking about the importance of something else. Well, first of all, 2 things. You were talking about when you first organize the Crime Watch program, you have the meeting with APD, and they provide you some information that you also make available to people at your barbecues in the summer. So tell us more about that. What can people
Yes, there are packets that APD has, and it's about safety. It's all about safety.
And so this is, you said there's some just really practical information in these packets that are distributed with tips on things you can do to keep your home safe, keep your block safe, things like that.
Yes, those are things those packets are given out at the meetings with APD, and I also have some that we give at when we have our potlucks and picnics.
So people will, that might be, if you're looking to get one of those packets and meet some neighbors and have some food too, then those potlucks and picnics in the summer would be the time to do it. And I know we have a community calendar on mountainviewpost.com, so I will try to keep on top of that, and as soon as we know a date for that event in the summer, maybe we can include it so people can come by and learn more about the program from people who are involved if they're interested.
Right, thank you.
And then that leads us to another safety-related topic we were speaking about earlier, which is fire and the importance of working smoke detectors and fire alarms and being prepared. Now, I know you might have seen the headlines the other day. We had a fatal fourplex fire in Mountain View yesterday morning. One person passed away, 4 people were injured, and 14 people were displaced and are currently being assisted by the Red Cross. And it's been a busy year for the Red Cross. When I spoke with them yesterday, they said that they've assisted 124 people so far in 2018 here locally, and they've assisted almost 24 people over the last few days here in Anchorage alone because of a few fires that have been that have happened. So, with that said, it's very important to have working smoke detectors. Kathy, and I know maybe you wanted to speak to that a little bit.
Yes, a life is worth a battery. A battery only costs maybe $5, and it could save somebody's life. So I thoroughly believe that we should have working smoke detectors.
It's a really important thing to keep on top of. And you know, Kate, you were talking a little bit about how your smoke detector beeps really loudly when the battery's not working, and that's a good reminder.
It beeps like there's a fire, and then goes like, and then so it's really loud, and then it goes beep beep, quieter, and so you can tell that it's dead.
So, and then that's something that's really important to pay attention to. So here's an event that's coming up that is relevant. On April 28th, the Red Cross of Alaska is holding an event called Sound the Alarm, where they'll meet at the Northway Mall and then go out into the community, and they have a goal of installing 100 smoke alarms in the community on April 28th. And so we will have more details about that event on mountainviewpost.com when we have them, such as time and things like that. But in the meantime, I understand they are looking for volunteers for that, and the Red Cross website is redcross.org/Alaska. So you can go to redcross.org/Alaska to do 2 things: to both donate to the Red Cross, which goes towards their efforts to assist people who have been affected by things like fires. And also, you can learn more about events like Sound the Alarm when it is available. So again, that event, it's a distribution of smoke alarms. They're hoping to distribute and install 100 smoke alarms throughout the community, and that's going to be happening on April 28th, and we'll try to have more information about that when it's available. We just wanted to say a huge thank you to our guest this morning, Kathy, who came in and told us all about her experiences with the Neighborhood Watch program. Kathy, thank you so much for coming out to the studio this morning.
Thank you,
Kathy.
Thank you.
We learned a lot, and we know we have some good information, and we hope if you're listening and we're interested in Neighborhood Watch, then you learned a lot from Kathy's experiences about what it's been like, and learned that it's really about connecting with neighbors and keeping your street a little safer, and maybe feel now that it's a little more accessible to you. So Kathy, thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you at your picnic this summer.
Oh, thank you.
Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Mountain View Post Radio Hour. My name is Kate.
My name is Kirsten Swan. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. This is the radio show, of course, all about Mountain View. So, Yay! So, Kate, we have some news headlines to talk about, right?
Yes.
The first one, I know you have an opinion about this. So first, some background. The Anchorage School District is looking at a proposal to change start times for schools within the district. And that would involve, I understand, later start times for kids in high school and earlier start times for younger students. But it's not a done deal yet. They are holding a series of open house meetings across the district for people to go and learn more. There are a total of 8 meetings that will be held at different schools. You can see the full schedule on asdk12.org. But for Mountain View residents, there's one coming up in the neighborhood, and that's next Thursday on April 12th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at Tyson Elementary School. So again, this is an open house to discuss proposed changes to the school start times, and it takes place on Thursday, April 12th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at Tyson Elementary School. So Kate, you are a student at Clark Middle School right now.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this issue?
I feel like the ASD people are saying that that children are more tired after school, like later in the school day than the beginning. But like that's kind of not true. We're kind of equally tired from both because we just woke up.
In your experience, yeah.
Yeah, because if you wake us up even earlier, yeah, we're not tired now. But if you wake us up even earlier, that's when we're going to be tired.
So you are not in favor
No.
of this proposal. How do you think your friends feel at Clark? Have you talked to anyone who wants to get up earlier?
But another thing is if they have a later start for little kids, daycare's kind of hard to get sometimes. So if you do it earlier or later, it's kind of hard to get daycare.
Yes, that is a concern. And I know I was reading a story by KTUU Channel 2 about this issue, and I know they spoke with some people who had those same exact concerns, that it would be hard finding childcare if they were to kind of mess with the existing system.
They should have a vote.
Yes, and I'm sure it will come to that before any final decisions are made, at least at the school board level.
That's good.
Right. For now, though, is the chance for people to learn more about the proposal and learn what the specific details are and talk with some of the people involved. And again, there are going to be about 8 meetings throughout the district to talk about that over the coming weeks. But if you live in Mountain View, the one to watch out for happens on Thursday, April 12th at Tyson, and it's 6:30 to 8 p.m.
Go so you can get educated.
Exactly. Go so you can get educated. Next week also we have a community council meeting. It happens on April 9th, and that's also at the Mountain View Boys and Girls Club, and it happens at 6 p.m., usually goes till about 8. I know we have a full agenda this week. There's going to be some more details about the Mountain View neighborhood cleanup, which...
On the Mountain View Post?
Yes, exactly. We will, of course, have all of those event details on our community calendar on mountainviewpost.com. But if people want to come and hear more details in person at the community council meeting, that happens on Monday, April 9th. The meeting itself goes from 6 to 8 p.m. And I know we have a full agenda. The community cleanup isn't the only thing on the agenda. There are also going to be some community safety updates, kind of based on the conversation we were having last week.
And probably going to talk about the fire.
Yeah, some things, that the neighborhood maybe can do about that. So again, if you want to get involved in the community council, our April meeting is on April 9th at 6 p.m. at the Mountain View Community Center, and it is open to anybody who lives in the neighborhood, who owns property in the neighborhood, or who represents a business or organization in the neighborhood, and you can vote on things if you're age 16 or over. So,
I have a question.
Yes.
Can their parents own property?
Yes.
Okay.
So, well...
Like if they live in Mountain View?
Yeah.
Oh, then, okay.
Of course. If you, when you're 16, you live in Mountain View, you can come and vote in the community council meeting.
Good.
Yeah, on community council issues. And remember, like we heard from Jasmine, the president of the community council, you can come to the community council and listen and watch no matter what age you are or where you live. And we frequently actually do have students from UAA who maybe don't live in the neighborhood but just come to see how the community council works and learn a little bit about the process.
Which is good because in the future they could make, if they see something going successful here, then they could try to bring it to somewhere else so that place could be also successful.
Exactly. Use the same models that are successfully being used here and bring them to another neighborhood. So if you live in the neighborhood or own a business or own property in the neighborhood and you're 16 and over and want to vote in the community council meeting, come on Monday night to the Mountain View Community Center. The meeting starts at 6 p.m. So speaking of events, this one already happened, but I was lucky enough to be able to catch it on Wednesday. Kate, there was a pretty big event that happened in Town Square Park, right?
Yes, it was the Keegan Randall Olympic, not ceremony, but like
It's a homecoming
event.
celebration,
Yeah.
right? And we had Keegan Randall, and we had like more than half a dozen other Alaskan Olympians and Paralympians who competed and in the Winter Olympics and are now back here in Anchorage.
Yay!
Yay! Congratulations, everyone.
They're all like, we got back home like either this week or last week.
Right.
It's good to be home.
Everyone was really excited to be home. There were a ton of people in Town Square Park. It was absolutely packed. But the reason I went was for a very special performance that happened at the end. Kate.
Right before they went to partying, the Clark Middle School Drumline, which I am also in, performed at the Keegan Randall Olympic homecoming ceremony party.
Yes, and you did a great job, and I think the audience loved you. They were cheering. It totally filled up the whole Town Square Park. The drums, it was
It's so loud.
It was loud and it was great. And for me, that was my first time hearing the Clark Middle School Drumline perform.
Not mine.
Well, how long have you been a member of it?
Since half of sixth grade, and then I started.
Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe like a year now,
Yeah.
About?
No, I
Or a
think
little?
a year and one.
more than a year.
Yeah.
You are a drumline veteran. So, luckily for people who were not able to make it on Wednesday, we were actually able to record one of the performances. So, we have a special treat if you're listening today. We have a special performance of the Clark Middle School Drumline, who performed on Wednesday for Alaska's Olympians. Great pomp and circumstance in Town Square Park. So,
I've actually don't think I've ever listened to a performance we've done. I've been in it, but it's kind of hard to listen to it when you're doing it.
that's a good perspective. I can definitely see that. So, how do we have everything in place? Ready? Okay. Buckle your seatbelts. Here's a special performance from the Clark Middle School Drumline. And that was the Clark Middle School Drumline performing for Alaska's Olympians at a special homecoming ceremony on Wednesday.
That was one of the 4 songs we played. Yeah.
Yes, and it went so fast, though. We waited a full hour, and then the performance, it went by in the blink of an eye. So I'm so glad we were able to record some of it because it was great.
Yeah.
So when people watch you perform, Kate, because, Kate, you are a member of the Clark Middle School Drumline.
Yeah.
They hear it. You're together. It's, like, on point. It sounds so tight and good. What does it take to be able to perform like that?
Well, you kind of just like start, and you start on cymbals and then go to bass drum, then you go to snare drum and then tenor.
When you first get involved?
Yes.
So how often do you practice? Do you have to audition to be part of this group?
You don't audition, but you just like come and then learn how to do it, like how to play the instruments.
Mm-hmm.
You have to learn to play all the instruments, because then what if someone's out?
Right.
We learn how to march, which sometimes we do for performances.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we practice on the football field
Okay.
when it's
That
sunny.
seems very, very official. That sounds like good practice.
And then, actually, that performance, if you were there, you saw we were wearing something that didn't look like our uniforms.
Right.
Because we were told it was going to snow, and Miss Williams did not want us to freeze.
Well, it was pretty cold out, and you had to stand outside in the cold for about an hour while you were waiting for your performance, and stand there and look official, and you're wearing your uniforms, and so it makes sense that you would have to wear a jacket so you're not too
Yeah.
cold to perform by the time comes, right?
Yeah. So that was really cool. And so you could tell I was trying not to smile, because we're actually not supposed to smile, because what if you're on the front news on the front of the newspaper and you're just smiling?
Right.
Be kind of creepy.
Well, I think you all have very nice smiles, but I definitely understand how when you're performing, you want to look serious, and you never know what occasion you're going to be performing at. What if it's a solemn occasion?
Yeah.
So you
And
want
so every day, like during the school week, we practice for an hour and a half each day from 4 to 5:30.
wow,
Yeah.
every day.
Every day.
That's amazing.
Unless we have something else that we need to do for like band or something else.
So this drumline keeps you pretty busy,
Yes.
but you can hear the results, like with the performance you just heard at
Yeah.
Town Square Park for the Olympians. You did a great job.
Something that also happened at the Keegan Randall thing, which I thought was really cool, was the East Band was playing.
Yes.
And then there was a girl that my sister's friends with that was interpreting one of the songs because she knew the words.
American Sign Language
Yeah.
interpreting. I saw somebody doing that in the crowd. It's great to be able to make music accessible like that for
Yeah.
people. Well, Kate, I think we are right about at the end of today's show now. I know we had, I almost forgot. I do have one big announcement. So you know that we are working on issue number 3 of the Mountain View Post magazine, right?
Yes.
And so that is coming out here now soon. We've already done 2 issues, and the 3rd issue of the magazine, which focuses entirely on Mountain View, and it's just full of stories about neighbors and events that happen in the neighborhood. It's coming out this spring. But we're looking for more people who want to be involved in it, right?
Yes.
And who might have a story idea or really love art or photography or even just, be interested in design or anything like that. And so we are going to be having an event. It's on Friday the 13th, and it's going to be from 4:30 to 6 p.m. at the Mountain View Library. And it's going to be open for anybody who wants to come and learn more about the magazine and pitch an idea for this next coming issue.
I'll have to go.
Yes, because I know you have some pretty cool things in the works for the next issue, right?
Yes.
So if you're listening and you want to be involved in issue number 3 of the Mountain View Post magazine, mark your calendar because we are having a special event open to everyone who wants to be involved. It's on Friday the 13th at the Mountain View Neighborhood Library, and it goes from 4:30 to 6, and you can learn all about the magazine and what it takes to put together and some of the stories we have in line for this coming issue. And maybe you'll be able to vote on some of the ideas for a cover, help pick out some of the cover art,
Yeah.
some fun things like that. So we hope to see a ton of people there.
And you can meet us.
Right, and you can meet us. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's show. This has been the Mountain View Post Radio Hour. We'll see you next week.